Hey, everybody. I am John Muir Laws. This is the Nature Journal Workshop, and it is a special edition today because we have two guests, Marcia Sivek from Bee Provided Conservation Radio and Rebecca Klein from Cheetah Conservation in Botswana. And we have, and they're going to be helping us engage with not just what a wonderful critter the cheetah is, but with how we can get, oh, check that out, 2 glasses, how we can get involved with cheetah conservation ourselves. It is a species that really needs our love and care. And we'll hear a little bit about that at the start of today's meeting. Then what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a workshop on drawing cheetahs and get you really jazzed about cheetahs, because you got to face it, it's a ridiculously cool critter. And then we're going to be returning to our guests for a discussion of a little bit more about the conservation status of these animals and how we can get involved in conservation ourselves. So Marcia and Rebecca, I'm delighted to have you. Marcia, I'm going to turn the floor over to you right now. Okay. For a brief discussion with Rebecca, and then we'll go learn some tricks about drawing cheetahs.
Great. Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today to learn how to draw a cheetah. And thank you, Jack, for hosting this and getting this going. So I'm so excited. So I am honored. I'm a host of a podcast called Bee Provided Conservation Radio, and I met Rebecca a couple years ago, and I just love cheetahs. And I talked to Rebecca and Jane, her co-worker friend in Botswana, and realized we're all creative and love to draw. And I thought this would be a great event for awareness. So I am honored to introduce you to Rebecca Klein. She's the founder of Cheetah Conservation Botswana, and she's currently in Botswana right now. And I think her and her daughter are going to be drawing with us today. So Rebecca, I just thought I'd let you just turn it over to you and give you a description, or let you give a description of who you are and what CCB is. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Marcia, and thanks to John as well for putting on this wonderful event. I'm really excited to learn how to draw a cheetah after all these years. I've made a few attempts. Yeah, so I am lucky enough to work in the beautiful country of Botswana. We have a lot of wonderful wildlife here. It's really got fantastic conservation credentials. You know, we have a lot of wide open space, a small human population, and some of the largest populations of many endangered African wildlife species on the earth today. Cheetahs, wild dogs, lions, elephants. Botswana has a big responsibility to the world to really conserve all of these amazing animals. And we focus on cheetah conservation, working in the west of Botswana, where most of the cheetahs are found. This is a really important strategic area for Southern Africa's cheetah population, which is the biggest cheetah population left on the earth today. We're in the very center, and we work in the area between two very big protected areas, and we work with communities living in those areas to make sure that people can coexist with cheetahs and other carnivores, because they're essential region for the Southern African cheetah population. It provides the linkages to all of the cheetah populations in Namibia, Zambia, South Africa, and then on into the rest of Botswana. So very, very important region to work from. And of course, cheetahs are a fabulous animal. As John said, they're beautiful, they're iconic, they're inspirational. So, you know, the fastest land animal on earth, they can inspire hearts and minds around the world to get involved in conservation. And cheetahs being at the top of nearly the top of the food chain, if we can conserve adequate populations of cheetahs, we know that we can ensure the continuity of all of the prey species of which they depend, and the habitat itself, this beautiful, very fragile Kalahari region where the cheetahs reside. So by conserving cheetah populations, we can conserve so much more. And I won't talk too long because I know everyone wants to learn to draw a cheetah, and I'm going to talk a little bit more at the end as well. But cheetahs really, they don't do well in protected areas because they're stronger carnivores like lions and spotted hyenas. And so 80% of Southern Africa's cheetahs live outside of protected areas where they live together with farming communities. So we do a lot of work with the farming communities to make sure that people are using best practices in livestock farming, so they're not coming into conflict with cheetahs and other carnivores, and also supporting them to develop alternative livelihoods that can really help them to see a value in living with these beautiful large carnivores. So developing ecotourism and different livelihood opportunities for them. So, and of course, our supporters around the world make it possible to do that. It really is a team effort, and these kinds of events really help to raise awareness. So thanks everyone, and I'm going to hand it over to John to learn more.
Well, Rebecca, again, thank you so much for being with us here today. I really deeply respect the work that you are doing on behalf of these animals and protecting them and the places that they live. We'll be returning to Rebecca at the end of this workshop, where we can learn a little bit more about how we can get involved with cheetah conservation internationally. And there's a lot that we can do. And now is a very important time to do that work. Again, thank you so much. I'm going to pop over right now to a little slide share program here. Hold on a moment. And here we are. And I am going to, let's see here. I'm going to pin my video here. So everybody, you should be able to see this on your page. Today we're going to be toggling back and forth between sort of a screen view here, as well as well as a document camera, where I'll be doing some live drawing, and you also are going to be doing some drawing at home. And here we go. And I'm going to hide these meeting controls so that it's not distracting to any of us. Here we go. Let's draw some cheetahs. The cheetah is a incredible, spectacular animal. And this is a bit of footage from National Geographic of just watching these animals in motion. And we know them as being the fastest land critter. So they can go, think of yourself on the highway, if you're obeying the speed limit, 65 miles an hour. These things can go from sitting still in the grass to 65 miles an hour for a short burst with incredible speed. And they've got some fantastic adaptations that help them do this. Very, very light frame, long body, and look at how tiny that head is. A tiny, tiny little head. And that is just one of the features that it has. They have tremendous lung capacity. Their lungs are huge, and they've got a huge heart with giant aortas. So their bodies are made to take oxygen and blood and blast it out to these muscles. Look how long those legs are. And we'll be learning more about this. But another part of the secret of the cheetah is an incredibly flexible spine. And we'll be learning about how that helps them survive, and also how that can help them to to be able to run so fast. And also will help us to be able to draw it. So here's our cheetah friend. And when you go to sketch them, drawing one that is actually at rest is going to be a lot easier. We'll take a look at some later in this workshop about kind of drawing them when they are doing their fast motion. But if you can't see the position of my hand as I'm doing this, right, you're not going to be able to see their legs. So don't think that you're supposed to kind of get somehow magic eyes and be able to see what you can't. But what we're going to do is just warm up with just a few, just to get your juices pumping here. I'm going to ask everybody to draw this cheetah. We're going to do a 1-minute cheetah drawing of this sitting cheetah. This is just to kind of loosen us up and kind of get us going, get a few marks on paper. I will soon be showing you some strategies and techniques that will help us just with whatever your system is. Let's just kind of get this thing on paper. And we're going to take 1 minute and do this. We're going to do about 3 little cheetahs here. And you should be drawing right now. You have about 20 seconds left, and then we're going to switch. Now, the purpose of this is not to finish a drawing of a cheetah. This is just kind of warming us up. The proportions on these animals are so weird. As I was drawing, I made my body too short and my head too big. Just because I'm used to looking at other kinds of cats, the novelty of this form, it just seems wrong to drop in a head that is that small. And so just sort of notice as you're kind of doing this, you know, if you make a mistake in cheetah proportions, it's because you're human. All right, let's try a different one. All right, so just we're gonna make a fast sketch of this. Now this time I'm remembering that I'm going to have a tendency to make that head too big. We'll take about a minute here. So you're drawing fast, you're drawing loose, you're not getting locked into any details. You should not be drawing spots right now. I ran out of room before I got down to the legs are so long. My cheetah is going to go off my piece of paper. Now just take a look at the proportions of this. Did you make, like I did, were you making your legs a little bit too short? Did you make the head too big? Did you make the body is ridiculously long on this. It looks wrong. So it's really easy to draw something the way you think it should look and have the cheetah be different. All right, we're going to try one more. This time, just get yourself to draw faster. Doesn't matter if it looks like the cheetah. If you drew quickly, you won. That's right. Carolyn just said, it just matters if you try your best. I agree with you, Carolyn. All right. So these will be very scratchy, very, very loose drawings. And it's going to be here for about 10 more seconds, and this cheetah is going away. Oh, hey, bonus cheetah. All right, one more. Now, this is a very cheetah thing to do. So, if you're really drawing cheetahs in the field, this this one will be what you see lots of them doing. Just kind of while you're watching them, they're going to chill, they're going to conserve their energy. Just fast, loose sketch, no detail. We're just blocking in general body shape here. We're about to move on. You can also practice your drawings of termite mounds if you wish. Not to be mammal-centric here.
My cheetah legs coming off the paper.
Your cheetah legs coming off the paper? Yeah, it's Amelia and I had the same problem that we're drawing, and we kind of run out of room because the legs are so crazy long. So here is just a little comparison of a leopard and a cheetah, and we'll kind of get into. Yeah, they both have long tails, but notice the size of the heads on these. The leopard, look at how bulky and sturdy and blocky that head is. If you tried to run at 65 miles an hour with that out in front of you, you would really have a problem. Also, look at how thick those leopards' legs are and compare them with the cheetah. Just little cheetah twigs coming down. Right? Now notice how deep the body is, right? So by depth of the body, I mean from the back to the belly. And notice that proportionally, the cheetah's body is a lot longer. So it's got just very different proportions than what we will generally expect to see. And another thing that's interesting is that the general cheetah expression here, we'll get into some cheetah expressions in a little bit. The cheetah sometimes just looks a little bit sweet, kind of a kinder, gentler big cat. And actually, the cheetahs, if you do want to if you were to come around a corner and run into any big cat, you're lucky if it's the cheetah. You do not look like their prey type, and they will not treat you as that. So there's just a little bit of we want to have in our head some general differences to it. What I'm going to do in just a moment is I'm going to bop over to a document camera, and I'm going to do a sketch of this cheetah, and then I'm going to return back to this cheetah. And you'll have a chance to do that as well. So but you're not going to be able to see this cheetah for a little moment. But first, just notice little head. There is a kind of cone here of a neck. Your body starts here. This is your chest area. Here's your shoulder blade, your arm up here at the front, boxing this side. Body for days. Here's your back leg. Here's the point of the hip. So the hips start back here. The leg has this upper part really thick, medium, and then small, right? Long body. Notice how high it is off the ground. When I'm out looking at the critter and I'm looking for general proportions, I'm looking at those sort of things. How big is the head? How long is the body? Something that I find very helpful to help start any drawing is just don't look at the cheetah here for a moment, but look at the shape of the air behind the cheetah. See this line coming down here, and now it's going to turn up here, and take one more turn down here. Corner, corner, there. So that line is where I often start a bunch of my drawings. I'll draw the line of the back and I hang the rest of the body from that line. So what we're going to do here is we're going to bop over to the we will bop over to the there we go. So I am going to just walk you through how I would go about thinking about blocking a critter like this in. I see the cheetah in front of me. I don't know how long it's going to be in this position. And so I'm going to draw in a line for coming down the back, up, there's a little bit of a turn, and then change angle to the where the hips are. I'll then attach a little head out here, and I have to be really, really careful not to make the head lion size. I'm be so used to drawing something like that. I'm intentionally, by the way, drawing here lightly so that I can then draw on top of this with a little bit more detail later on. All right. Now I am going to sort of, my body is going to be roughly this deep. So there I'm looking at proportions. I'm thinking how long is this and how long is that body going to be. Up here at the front of the body, we had I'm drawing in kind of a little kidney bean shape like that. And what that is the upper part of that is the shoulder blade. The bottom part of that is the upper arm. And that makes a little bean out at the front end of the body.
Hey, Jack, can I interrupt?
Yes.
There's
Absolutely.
I totally don't mean to interrupt, but there is some comments that people cannot see the focus right on the image. They're having a hard time. I don't know if that's a focusing thing on your end.
Yeah, I think that I'm just using a fairly soft pencil, so it's a bit blurry. My line is blurry. But if you look at the pencil itself, rather than using a sharp pencil that makes one thin line, sometimes I'll intentionally use a blunt pencil for this part of the drawing because that because it's less precise, it gives me more wiggle room to change my mind. Right? So for my hips back here, it's also a little bit of a bean shape, kind of a bent bean. But now I want to get this guy off the ground. So what I will often do is I'll look at, if this is my belly, how far down is the ground? And I want to bring my legs all the way down there. So my leg is gonna come down and down to the ground. The back leg here, I look at how, if you're used to drawing deer and things, you're used to that joint in the back leg being somewhere in the middle of this space. On our cats, you're gonna find that joint, the heel, is much closer to the ground. Now I'm going to put in a little bit of a cone of the neck, and look at this. I'm really glad this happened, because when I get to this stage, it's really easy to, I've already drawn in my head, you'd naturally just draw your line up there. But here is the deal. At this point, I'm looking at how long this part of the neck should be. If I brought it all the way up there, my neck would be too long. That means I put my head in the wrong place. One of the advantages of doing a little kind of light pencil drawing at the start is that I can change my mind. I can change my mind and kind of go like, I'm going to give you a shorter neck. All right. So here I have my basic kind of block in for my cheetah. This animal, I'm drawing it from a photograph, so it is incredibly cooperative. Out in the wild, they're not going to be as cooperative, of course, but when I'm drawing things in the field, what I do is I make a bunch of drawings, and the animal moves. I then start, now I'm looking at the back of it, and I like, oh, and its head is down here, and its tails, and oh, now it moved again, and any pose though that it will then stay in for a longer period of time, I'll be able to get further along on that picture. But generally, when I'm out in the field, the animal moves, I will just start a new drawing. So in just a moment, what I'm going to do is bring you all back to the view where you'll get to see the critter itself. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to try to frame in a cheetah. Frame in a cheetah. Let's go there now. And so let's just take a few minutes. So let's just take some time with this cheetah. We'll take a few minutes and give yourself an opportunity just to kind of block it in and work your way around on the cheetah. Don't worry about my drawing, just work on yours. We're going to take just a few more minutes here. So give yourself about 2 minutes with this cheetah. I find it's really difficult to give myself permission to draw legs that are this long. These days we can get lots of wonderful photographs just right off the web. So if you'd like time to sort of practice more cheetahs going forward, you know, it's easy to find reference material online. Cheetah Conservation Botswana also has a bunch of beautiful photographs on their website. It's a great place to kind of go for some such things. Now let's take a look at the head. And what we're going to do is just pay a little bit of attention to details of drawing the head. And we will do, take a look at it from the front, the side, and the 3/4 view. And I'll show you how you might block in a shape like this. And then we'll have a chance to mess around with what we're going to do is I'm going to demonstrate some thoughts about the front view. I'm going to give you some thoughts about a side view. And then together, we're all going to work on a 3/4 view, which is, I think, one of the most, this is the angle that you will typically see critter heads at. That they're not staring right at you. The head will be just turned slightly. You'll see a little bit of the front, a little bit of the side. And this is the angle that I really recommend everybody start to play with. But before we do that, just understanding of a little bit of the structure and the pattern from the side and from the front is going to help us out. As you do this, you can as I do this, you can follow along on your own sketch pad. But I'm going to turn to the view where you're going to be looking at my piece of paper and watch me draw. Unfortunately, that doesn't allow you to simultaneously look at this cat drawing. We tried that a little earlier, but it turns out people who have some devices cannot see both those images at the same time. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back to the document camera and show you how I would approach drawing this and the side, and then what's kind of going on in this sort of an angle, and then we will all do this one together. Ready? So here we go. Escape. Marcia, are you currently looking at my drawing tablet?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, I am. And I just see like the feet of the drawing you did prior to that. Yeah.
Great. So, for a front view, what I might do is start with a light circle. Keeping the central axis of the head is really important. And then I'm going to put in a line where I see the middle of the eyes going across. If the animal is holding its head lower, the eyes are going to be lower. If it has its head up, tilted up higher. So anywhere along this line, it's not, so there isn't a formula that if this is the head circle, the line for the eyes is going to be right in the middle. Because if it turns its head up towards you, those eyes become higher. As it turns its head down, that you'll see those eyes as lower on the head. So on this one, I'm going to put those in a little bit above above the middle. And again, you're seeing this as a blurry line because this is a big, broad, soft pencil. Now I want to place my eyes. My eyes will end up being about 1 eye width out from this. So if I kind of have an eye in here as a spacer, my eyes will be about an eye out on either side. All right, so I could probably fit an eye in here, an eye in here, and an eye right there on the outside. So if you divided that into thirds, putting my eye in there. Now, depending on how much the head is tilted up, the snout is going to be higher or lower here. So it could be really with its head raised, in which case you could see the nose right in here. But if its head is down a little bit in a typical posture, you're going to see the nose as lower on the head. So I'm going to put my nose in about here. And cheetahs have a very broad nose. That's something that gives them not a bobcat look, but a cheetah look. They need to get a ton of oxygen in there, so the nose is going to be really, really broad. And its little muzzle is going to be working in this area here.
Hey, Jack?
Yes.
I am getting requests that it's not just the blue line, I think. I think it's the resolution of the screen for seeing the blue line. Somebody suggested maybe using a darker pencil this time for teaching. I just thought I'd pass that on to you.
Okay. I will go check my, on my screen here, I am seeing, this isn't enabled for HD. I cannot make any modifications to make this more higher resolution.
Okay.
But I can jump over to a darker pencil.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I guess it's just
Absolutely.
really difficult. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Okay. So I'm going to make a little triangle for where my nose is. And a little bit of a line down from the middle of that nose. It's a very sort of short distance in here to a downward V of a mouth. So I've got this upward V here, up this V, and then little line and downward. The nose, I'm going to imagine a little lines kind of arcing up this way. Big cats have, and little cats have, a large pad of muscle and connectors for eyebrow whiskers that are right up in here. And so putting in those little kind of eyebrow moments, a little suggestion of where that spot is going to be, is going to help you help your eyes kind of get placed. And then around the eye, you're going to need a little bit of special structure that is going to help sink this eye into the head. So the cat has a kind of a brow line that is going to come across here. That will actually shade part of the eye. Above that, in this area here, you have a raised area of fur so that the whole eyeball zone, remember there's the eye is not a flat thing, it's a globe of tissue. It'll be hiding in there. And similarly, you're going to have a little ring of tissue and bone that is going to come down here. So that's going to kind of frame, the eye gets sort of framed by this bulge of tissue above and below. Let's take a look at that eye again. I'm just going to draw this eye over here. If I've got my eye, it has sort of an initial brow. It has this ball of whisker tissue that sticks up. There is an arc that comes down here of sort of kind of higher tissue around and above that little brow ridge. And then there is, you're going to have a zone underneath the eye. This is going to be true of raised skin and bone that sticks out here. This is going to be true for whether you're drawing a bobcat, mountain lion, any of the cats. So this general structure for an eye is going to do you much better than just putting a round dot on the side of the head. You're going to want to fit that eye into the head. Where my ears are going to come out is going to be different depending on how high or low the critter's head is being held. But in general, the ears are going to come out above the eye. In this angle, they're coming out above the eye and going down below the eye. And I want it to be parallel on the other side. So if that gives me my spots for where my ear is going to come in on the other side, I'm coming up, over, and down. Sort of a bigger swoop down. So it's not doing this. You're going to be coming out, then down a little bit, and then a bigger swoop down. Sometimes you can even add, there's a little kind of bonus bump you get on the bottom of the ears. So that is some basic framing in. If I go and add detail on the head of this, I'm really going to just focus on half of the head here. All right. So let's just start with the eye here and sort of build up around that. So I have that little brow ridge that's going to create a little bit of a shadow down here. The eye, the corner of the eye is going to be high here, and the lower corner of the eye is going to be low down here, so at sort of an angle across the eye. So I'm going to come down to a little bump here, and I'm going to come down there. I'm not going to put the pupil as a dot right in the middle of the eye. Very often, with the head's down a little bit, it's looking up slightly at you. So you'll see the pupil kind of connecting. You'll see a lot of iris down here, and this pupil then going up to the top there. The brighter the light, the smaller that pupil. Because there's this brow ridge, this top part of the eye is going to be in shadow. Now I'm going to suggest this bump here, and I'm going to do that by, and the difference between here, sometimes right in this area here between this little whisker ball and this bump of tissue, that's where you get these little, you get sort of tabby cat marks. And those can be bolder on some cheetahs and lighter on others. And then I'm just going to suggest there's a little bit of a bump here. Suggest that there's a little bit of a bump here. So down around the base of the eye that comes out, and then there's an angle change down this way. So you see how that kind of fits the eye into the head. Now, for my nose, on the top of the nose, there's sort of this flying bird shape. And the nostrils are going to be on either side here. You can think of nostrils as sort of a dyslexic 66, sort of kind of line coming in here. And you see how this part, so it's a 66. A little bit of a line on the base of the nose here, not going all the way up. Little bit of a line down here. And now I get into this mouth area here. And I'm going to, it's got that downwards V. I'm going to make this part of the V a little bit darker. And there's my mouth. Over here on the side of the head, I've got fur that comes down, and on the chin is going to go to a point down here. I can just suggest that it's furry. A few little lines, kind of flicked in lines. There you go. Now here is a big cheetah cheek. And the cheetah cheek is going to kind of frame in this area here. And the cheetah cheek has lines of whiskers that kind of come in, pointing towards this area right here. There's these whisker bed lines. For the ear out on this side, I am going to come up. It turns a corner down and in, and then there's a little bump on the side. Sometimes you can even see a little hint of a pocket of fur right in there. Now there's a bunch of big hairs in the top part of the ear, and those then come down in a triangle in this area here. And those are going to be lighter colored than the shadow of the ear behind them. So what you don't want to do is on your cat ear is draw in all these hairs in this area, because those hairs are lighter value than the stuff behind them. So the way you handle it is you figure out this is the shape of my mass of hairs. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of figure out where the edge of them is. And these little flicks, I'm not drawing hairs, these are cracks in the fur, between clumps of fur. And then I can make the whole area out here darker. All right, kind of coming out to leave a little bit of the edge there. And I can put in a few little kind of hints of there's some kind of long, you know, just to say like, hey, everybody, this is fur. A few little flicks and marks in there. And then you've got a big clump of fur that is sticking out there in front of that darker part of the ear that is further behind. So that's all structural stuff on the head of the cheetah. The next thing that I'm going to do is put in patterns. And this is where the cheetah really starts to look like a cheetah. So here's the big mark. The tear mark is a line of dark that comes down from the eye and bounces off the side of the nose and wraps around the side of the whisker bed here. And it is just dark jet black. Sometimes you'll see it kind of start to follow kind of parts of the whisker bed in. Thank you, honey. So that's the big cheetah signature move. It's this line that comes down from the eye. The other cats don't have that. We already put in this little mark here. On the top of the head, a little bit of a line that comes down the midline, and there's going to be a V back here of little dots in a totally random pattern. And so it's different on every cheetah. Every cheetah has a slightly different pattern back there. But there would be little dots. Similarly, there is a line of dots coming back from the corner of the eye to down in the cheek area here. There's a pattern of dots that is going to be different in every cheetah. Something just to bear in mind as you're putting in these marks is that if you're looking at a dot on an object and it's close to the edge and that edge is rounding around, that dot is going to be more of a line because you're not looking straight down on it. So sometimes these dots that you'll see around here, they'll look more like lines. If I draw all of these as round dots, it flattens that part of the drawing out. There's some front-on cheetah business. I'm going to do a shorter kind of interpretation of the side view of a cheetah. And for a cheetah side view, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a circle. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach a box, a short box, onto the side of that circle. The cheetah's eye is going to be in line with where that box comes in. And the eye that was doing this from the front, from the side, is going to be doing this. So you're going to see kind of this rounded front triangle for where the eye is. I'm going to need a little bit of room for nose, and my eye is going to be somewhere in this area. There's that, we talked about that brow that shades the cheetah. So the cheetah is going to have just a little bit of a brow. Down here is my big kind of muzzle and whisker bed. Now I'm going to sort of, let's zoom a little bit more here. Oh, wrong way. So for attaching this into the head, I have that big puff of skin that comes up. There's that whisker pile in front of the eye. And I have that zone of pushed out skin underneath the eye. So the same thing, I want to block in, not just have a little eye shape on the side of a head. I want to attach that in. That's going to do a lot to really make my critter. So the ear, I want to look at here's the angle from my eye to nose. And on some critters, you'll look back and the ear will be in line with that line. On this beastie, it's not. It's back this way. All right, so this critter's ear is going to be back here. So it helps to kind of look at what is the angle to the ear in whatever critter you are drawing. Once I kind of like this framework, I'm ready to add some details. Here's that little brow. And I'm going to put my pupil up attached to the top. Here's that cool little mark between the little whisker bed and on the side of the eye here, there's my eye. My nose is big and broad. And from the front, it's also appearing as a triangle. The lips come out a little, back and down to a corner of the mouth. I don't want to get too much of a big prominent chin or I'll start to look like a lion. Let's put in that huge, that tear mark. It's going to come down and it is going to wrap around the back edge of the whisker pad. That's that big sort of signature cheetah move. I may have a few tear marks coming down from the back corner of the eye. Then in this area, I'll get into an area of spots that again will be different on the sort of cheek patterns will be different on each cheetah. And few marks on the forehead. The ear I would handle the same way. So here I've got this L coming down on the side of my face. Back here, it makes these cool kind of brackets around the snout. Oh, you weren't able to see anything there. Here, those brackets around the snout. Back for this character. I think I've got maybe this sticking out a little bit too far. Of course, I'm looking at a photograph as I'm doing this, and what I'm going to suggest that you do is a series of cheetah drawings also looking at a photograph, but I wanted you to see sort of how I might approach doing something like this. Last little bit I want to point out is that when you get to put in color, you'll find there's some wonderful white patterns right around the eyes, and you really want to look for those so that as you do start to put in your color and value, that you get those light spots around the eyes. That's going to help you. It really makes those eyes pop. Those eyes pop. Same with that shadow in the eye. Get that shadow, then those lights and darks around there. Makes for a cool cheetah looking eye. And the last little head thing is this 3/4 view. And this is the view that I tell my students that you want to pay the most attention to. Let's go take a look at those photographs again. All right. So you got nice shadow. Here's the light around the eye. Here's that bird mark on the top of the nose. Notice here's the pad of those where whiskers can stick out above the eyebrows, that little mark between them. Here is the zone pooching out above the eye, below the eye here. And look at this line coming across here gives a little bit of shadow right there in that front corner of the eye. It makes it look a little bit more serious. But also it's an important structural thing because this is like a little visor that is over the front of this eye. Front of the mouth, short distance here to this V. Notice that the V is very clear and bold here, getting less distinct out here. In the side view, here is the tissue under the eye. Here's that zone that kind of sticks out under the eye. That nice sideways triangle, rounded front. You're seeing the side of the pupil. Here's the zone above the eye where it sticks out a little bit, and that eyebrow part, which can have little eyebrow whiskers like that sticking up into it. Big sideways triangle of the nose, and that stripe coming down along the back edge of the whisker bed. Here on the ear, you can see here's that big zone of fluffy stuff along the front and coming down on the side here. So you're not really drawing in all of these, but you're darkening in this area to make this stand out as light. Right? The same thing here in this ear. I don't want to draw in all these as dark lines because I want this to be lighter relative to this part here that I'm putting in darker behind that head. All right, so this is the view where a little bit of time spent playing with this view and doing some, the same is true for drawing, you know, cows, horses, pigs, walrus, whatever it is, birds. Don't be afraid of the 3/4 view. We're going to point out some parts of it that are weird and some parts of it that are really important for getting this angle. You get the drawing's going to work. So in particular, right here, this far side eye, what is happening here? You've got this brow coming in and this far side eye. That is going to really make the picture. The other part that you really want to pay attention to is this part of this far cheek right in here. This side, you already know what it does. It's going to do exactly the same thing. This eye is going to do very much what you expect it to do. This eye is going to be tricky. This side of the cheek is the other tricky zone. If you get this and this, you'll be able to turn the head in this 3/4 view position. So I'm going to walk you through that again on the big screen and how I would approach that. And then we'll take a look at a few other details of cheetah anatomy, and then we will return to our friends at Cheetah Conservation Botswana to talk a little bit about conservation of this really cool critter. So let's mess with this 3/4 view of the head. So this time, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the big ball. And instead of the center line of the head coming down the middle of it, this is the key. I'm going to make a crescent moon shape over to the side. That is the center line of this ball. All right. Now, my eyes are going to be up here on this plane. And the eyes, that's also going to be where my little nose platform is going to attach. So from here, I'm going to try to get this nose platform to stick out from this head at a 3/4 view angle. I'm going to darken these lines a little bit so you can see what I'm doing a little bit more easily. I probably wouldn't do that on my real drawing because the light one would be, well, easy enough for me to see. All right, so I'm going to have one eye roughly in here. The other eye is going to be, normally I was looking at, okay, I had from my center line, I had a very kind of clear, make this eye out here a little bit more, this clear space here, and I was doing that evenly over here and then putting the eye. So I'm not going to do that. Notice that this distance here is a lot longer than this. This eye, it's going to be over here much closer to the to that center line than your brain is going to think it should be. So this eye is moving in towards that center line. So this distance and this distance are not the same. From there, I'm going to look at whatever angle my nose comes down. And do you see this direction of this line here? I'm going to put parallel to that the top of the cheetah's nose right in here. Big, broad nose. And I'm now going to take this center line. Actually, let's first kind of do this. Let's have this So I'm kind of constructing this nose platform sticking out. The center line of that is going to be here. And if it is not totally flat, which it isn't, it actually is curved on the top, instead of being right in the middle of this, the top of this is going to be closer to this side. So asymmetrical top here. So that means that on the nose triangle coming down here, all right, so here's my big nose, I am going to have a big broad side here and a skinny side over here. My mouth is going to come down like I had expected it to before here, and then just a short little version of that over here. I'm going to have a little bit of head sticking out on this side. Little cheek here. I'm going to have a big cheek over here. So you see how it's asymmetrical. If this is the center line of my chin, it's going to come down to a point of my chin here and back. Over here, I'm going to have my big pile of that little kind of knot on the forehead, and it's going to have its partner over here. I have, just like we had done before, I'm going to tuck this in here. I have my bottom part of my eye here so that the eye sits in something that is where I have sort of a socket that I can fit into. Over here, right, remember here is that kind of that brow line coming in. That is going to make a little bump out there. So as I take this framework, let's put in the ears. So remember the ear was sitting back further at a slightly different angle. We'll see the same thing here. This one attaching along here. All right. And where's that going to be on the other side? That's going to be, you know, something sticking, attaching here and then coming back. So you just might see a little bit of the ear on the far side. That eye has its high corner and the eye has its low corner. This is going to be a flatter side of the eye, and it's going to be halfway between this eye and that round eye that we saw before. So curved side, we're then going to come down to that. Top part gets shadow, pupil. If you want it to look wet, add a little highlight up into that. That was just with a white gel pen. Here is that kind of cool bump. This part of the eye gets shadow. Now look at this. This is, remember I said that this part here is really going to be a big deal. So I'm going to just kind of come down here and bump out my nose. That line down the middle of the head, sometimes you actually will see that as a marking on the cheetah. And that's going to really help us sort of define. I kind of have that kind of come around here and then start to go out onto the flat of that nose. That is going to, people look at that and they're like, oh, okay. My mouth. Remember, I'm going to make this part in here a little bit more bold, and I can have a few little kind of ticks down that are little, where you can sort of see hairs that are coming into it. This side, I'm going to come down and think of the cheek wrapping around this chin here. This part here is, here's this corner of the mouth coming down. And then my tear line will come down this area and now wrap around. And you want to think of this cheek as being a rounded object that you're coming around. The little tear mark broadens towards its base. That's that sort of distinctive cheetah tear mark. Remember those whisker lines? Sometimes the black follows those a little bit. This far side eye is mostly hidden here. And I just have a little bit of cheetah face sticking out there. Not quite pleased with that. I think I want even less. On the shadow on the nose here, I'm not going to bring that all the way up to the edge, so it can be a little bit of a wet area, kind of catching a little bit of light there. There is sort of sculpting that 3/4 view face. So again, just what I had there kind of in review, I had a circle, and from that I came down with a little platform. Parallel with this, I had the base of the nose. The center of the head came here, and then it went out onto that nose bridge here, leaving this side smaller than this. So when that nose comes down, I have a big side of the nose and a little side of the nose. The parts that were really challenging were this far side of the head here, getting that little corner of the mouth there, and also just leaving a little bit for the eye here, as opposed to the bigger eye that was in here. Meow. This slideshow is going to be available as a on my website, so you can come back and check out these at your leisure. Looking at the time, I ended up kind of going down a face rabbit hole more than I thought I would. So rather than spending time with you drawing this now, this is going to be returning to this is going to be part of your homework, and I will get this on the website pronto. All right. Let's just take a look now. I just got a few other aspects of cheetah-ness that are going to help you with doing what you're doing. I've got actually 2 color variations of cheetahs here. Sometimes you'll see, I think they call these king cheetahs, where you get these stripes. But it's an uncommon mutation. But what I would like you to notice is that on the king cheetah, these stripes coming down this way. Let's look at the regular cheetah pattern and notice that these dots are following that same pattern. So as you're putting in these, there are actually rows of dots along the back. It becomes more difficult to see on the side, but along the central back, there are some very kind of clear, like a central spine row and then rows of dots along the sides of that. This is also a good chance to take a look at just what dots do as they foreshorten around. A dot that you're looking square down on makes a circle. A dot that is over on the side makes a skinny oval. See those skinny ovals over there? That is a great way of showing that the form is wrapping around. It is turning around the form. So here, think of this as a ball turning away from you. Look at how those dots there turning into ovals, arcing this way. These ones arcing this way, turn the form. So your dots can do a lot to help describe the shape of what you're seeing. Every cheetah has different patterns of dots. So there isn't, you do get this tear mark, but every cheetah is different. Turns out these are 2 pictures of the same cheetah. At first glance, this one, because it's got the same expression, looks a lot like this one. Right? But it's the patterns of where the dots are. This one is much more heavily patterned on the cheek here. You'll get different patterns on different cheetahs, same general pattern. Notice on the tail here, you can get different patterns going around on the tail. Similarly, on these front legs, these are really big, dense. These ones are more spread out. So you can see that these 2 cheetahs, these were photographed different places, different days. This is a different cheetah over here. But you'll see that this pattern and this pattern, so biologists will often use these leg patterns and tail patterns to identify cheetahs at a distance. They'll be sitting there, their tail will be popping up. You get a photograph of that, you'll know which cheetah you have. But just for your sketching and drawing, know that you can get different patterns on those critters. So tails, different patterns of spots on the body and the face as well. Let's just take a look at the face of this one. Notice this one has very clear stripe coming up here on this side, not so clear on this side. Nice little dotting coming into this upper cheek here, and a clear little back tear mark. Let's compare that with another one. This one is more symmetrical, not as bold up here. Right? So you'll see when you are out cheetah sketching, you're drawing an individual. You're drawing an individual, not a generic species. This one here Lots of spotting up here. Look at this nice, big, clear spotting on the legs. Generally, on the top of the back, big spots on the legs here, the spots get bigger, right? Tail, legs, and up along the back, you get bigger spots. Nice, dense, close together. Smaller, more spread out on the side of the body. That's a generalization, but you'll find it is useful. Look at this one's legs. Compare this leg with this leg. All right, see two together, little circle here. Different pattern in here. So again, you're going to have these cheetahs are individuals. And you're going to be looking for that, get the hint of that in your drawing. Another variation that you're going to see is just how lean the animal is. And notice this super skinny cheetah. All right. Compare that with this guy. What's the difference? This one, you start thinking like, is that a leopard or something? It's just so big in the body. What happened here? Decide for yourself. Carolyn, what do you think? Why do you think this one's so big in the middle?
He ate something.
He ate something. That's right. This one is full. This one's there's a whole Thompson's gazelle in here, right? And this cheetah may be going back to the cubs with a full tummy right here. Isn't that cool? All right. There is. I mean, that is so. Your same cheetah can have a very different look to it. So all of that gives you a sense of variation in the animal. Right. Look at this, these nice stripes on the back here. So pretty, so pretty. I mean, what an incredible, incredible beastie. So one last little point that I want to make is that in the run, we're going to spend a moment on run, and then we're going to return to our friends at Cheetah Conservation Botswana. When the cheetah runs, the shape of its body radically changes. If you're on a horse, anybody who's ridden a horse at a full gallop, you know it's a bouncy ride. But it's stable. Your saddle is attached on a stable surface. Imagine having if you attached a saddle here on the back of this cheetah, and then it started to run and it arched its back like this, it would be compressing the lungs. Could you go see what the, thank you, honey. So you'd be compressing the lungs, you couldn't do it. So look at how the cheetah's got the most flexible spine. So as it runs, unlike a horse, instead of this being a flat platform, when it's extended, it is flat and stretched out. When the legs are gathered to get those back legs forward even further, it's arching the back. So the back arches and flattens, arches and flattens, arches and flattens. And that's one of the things that makes it so cool. You can see here also that please tell him I'll be there in about 10 minutes. I will, also this is really cool. The cheetah will extend its claws while running. That gives it even better traction. Other cats that are using those for the kill, they're going to be retracting those claws, but the cheetah generally has those claws out. And you'll even see those very clear claw marks showing up in the tracks of a cheetah. Most cats, the claws don't show up in the tracks. Not so with the cheetah, because it's using those for bonus traction. Little bitty skull. Doesn't that seem disproportionate? So cool. I mean, what an amazing, amazing animal. So there it is. When you're drawing these, if you are drawing it in run, the legs are going to be a complete blur to you. And so what you might kind of realistically get is just sort of the shape of the sweep of the back with a bunch of dust kicked up underneath it, because that's what you're actually going to be seeing, right? If you're drawing it with the arch back, that's going to be gathered legs. If you're drawing it with the flat back, that is extended. Right? And that is the cheetah. This incredible beastie is, we're going to be learning more about this. There are few of these left on the planet, and the reason is decisions which we have made. They also have their own challenges. The genetic diversity of cheetahs, you can take skin from any cheetah anywhere in the world and graft it onto another cheetah, because genetically, a cheetah is a cheetah is a cheetah. They have such little, look at how steady this head is. The body is just going light speed, and that head is just tracking. They've recently done some studies on the inner ear of these things, and they find that they have these huge inner ears that do all of this balancing gyroscope work for the, they balance the head. So as the cheetah is just blasting along, the head is going to keep constantly in no jiggling, keeping an eye on the Thompson's gazelle that is right ahead of it. This is incredible. This is, I find, as I was looking at this last night, I was moved to tears by the beauty of the mechanics, and these guys just, they need our help. They need our help. If they are going to survive, it's going to take deliberate, coordinated action from our species. And I think we can, but we need to kind of work together. What I'd like to do now is connect us back with our friends at Cheetah Conservation Botswana. They're going to tell us a little bit about the status of these animals, the conservation challenges that they're facing, and what they're doing to do that, and how we can, look at this, like the head. Sorry, I'm just getting choked up by beauty. So let's return now to our friends at Cheetah Conservation, and I'm going to unpin myself, and there we go. Marcia, and welcome back.
Thank you, Jack. That was amazing. I learned so much, and yeah, I'm not going to talk much, but I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca. And I just wanted to ask Rebecca, did you learn anything new about the cheetah while you were looking closely at how to draw it?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. It was kind of like looking at cheetahs in a different way with new eyes, you know, because we get carried away with sort of where the cheetahs are in relation to farmers and different threats that they might be experiencing, and sometimes we don't stop to look at the you know, the sort of intricacy of the animal itself. Which was really nice, really refreshing, yeah. And I learned a lot. So thanks. I'm gonna practice plenty drawing cheetahs now.
You're welcome. So how many cheetahs are left in the wild right now, approximately?
So at the moment, they're unfortunately, as well as being incredible animals, they're also one of the most endangered large cat in Africa today. And due to habitat loss, human-wildlife conflict, illegal trade, declining prey populations, we have about 6,700 cheetahs left today, and which is hugely concerning. So It's estimated in 1900 there was about 100,000 cheetahs throughout Africa, of course, not through sort of the equatorial forests of Africa, but in a lot of Africa they roamed, and across down into the Arabian Peninsula all the way to India. And of course, because of those threats that I just mentioned, their range has declined significantly, and now we just have a few pocket populations in North Africa, a good population in East Africa, and also Southern Africa, where actually between Botswana and Namibia, we have 55% of the cheetahs left on Earth. So we have in Botswana 1,600, we've got about 25% of the cheetahs left today. So yeah, they definitely do need support. It's quite amazing, really, you know, across the world, internationally, you know, people see the cheetah and see the beauty of it and the speed and the agility and what an incredible animal it is. But sometimes the people living alongside them don't really see them in that way. They'll see them as a threat to their livelihoods and a pest, and they don't necessarily want to coexist with them. So that's what we're working really hard at Cheetah Conservation Botswana to evolve, is people's perceptions towards living together with cheetahs and other carnivores, other big cats, and carnivores such as wild dogs as well. Because it is possible to coexist with these animals. Most of the Botswana's rural communities are farming communities, livestock farming communities, and that is their livelihood, their primary livelihood. So when animals are roaming around when their livestock is left to roam around in the grazing lands, and if they're unprotected and there's young ones in particular, like cattle, the calves are very vulnerable. Goats and sheep are very vulnerable to predation when they're out in the environment grazing. You know, when animals are taken by cheetahs and other carnivores, people obviously get very upset and really don't value living together with them. So, but there's a lot you can do. If you look after your animals really well, you use good, strong enclosures at night, herding strategies during the day. One of our big programs is actually training livestock guarding dogs to go out with the livestock and to be the guardians of the livestock when they're out there in the environment. So when cheetahs and other carnivores do encounter the livestock, an aggressive dog comes to protect the animals, and you know, cheetahs and other carnivores are generally opportunistic. They're looking for an easy meal. So given a sort of angry dog barking and protecting the livestock, they will leave the livestock alone and go and eat some wild natural prey, of which we're lucky in Botswana we do have plenty of. So by using a lot of these techniques to improve your farming, improve your grazing, making sure that you're utilizing breeding seasons, maternity kraals, maternity livestock enclosures. So when you have young livestock, you're keeping them closer to home. Those vulnerable animals you're keeping closer to home. You can actually farm in the Kalahari and coexist with wildlife. And we have some wonderful farmers in our farmers network who are actually demonstrating exactly that by utilizing best practices in livestock management. You can have a productive operation, but not come into conflict with cheetahs. So now a lot of those farmers are sharing that information through our farmers networks to demonstrate that you can live in the Kalahari and live with wildlife. But of course, as well as having farming livelihoods, we're trying to evolve and expand the livelihoods that communities in the Kalahari subsist on, because of course you want to be also careful about climate change. You know, we have increasing drought and less rainfall than we used to do in some areas. So diversifying livelihoods beyond livestock farming and looking at livelihoods that will actually value the cheetahs. such as ecotourism. And also those farmers which we are working with who are farming very sustainably in the environment, they're not killing wildlife, they're not killing cheetahs, that those farmers can have their beef and their meat eco-labeled as wildlife friendly, and then they'll get paid more for their livestock they're producing as well, so that people can actually see an economic value to living with these beautiful animals. And, you know, when their livelihoods are not so much under threat, then they have the opportunity to see the beauty in these animals.
That's wonderful.
So yeah, so it's very exciting. We have a fabulous team of 18 primarily local people working throughout the Kalahari. We do a lot of research to better understand the cheetah's needs and conservation threats. We hand all of that information back to the communities we work with so that they understand them better and they're better able to live together with them. We have the Farming for Conservation program, which is focused on the different farming techniques that you can implement to improve your productivity and reduce your conflict. And then we have the Community Livelihoods program as well to develop these new alternative livelihoods. And then we do engagement and awareness. We do education in the schools as well, so we can encourage the young people of Botswana to really value these animals and realize that Botswana is quite unique in having such an incredible biodiversity, level of biodiversity in the world, and that they can benefit significantly from that. I mean, a good part of, a good thing which is happening at the same time is you know, ecotourism, tourism and wildlife tourism has been growing a lot in Botswana over the last decade. So people do realize that wildlife is a natural resource, and it can potentially benefit them in the future. So we are supporting certain communities to really set up community campsites and different craft products as well that they can start selling to tourists moving through. And then, of course, that international input, those tourists coming through want to see these animals, and people realize, you know, the value of them. So yeah, so of course it is. There's a lot of work to do. I mean, I'm happy over the last 15 years. We have seen a change in perception. More and more people are utilizing progressive methods of livestock management. More and more people are using livestock guarding dogs. More people are starting to value cheetahs and other wildlife and realizing how they can potentially benefit from them individually and at community level as well. So it's wonderful to see that. Botswana's cheetah population is stable. I'm really, really happy to be able to contribute towards that. And we want to keep it that way. And of course, we want to see some increases in the population as well. So we're continuing to do our work with our wonderful team. And of course, we always, you know, we're doing the work on the ground. But as I said before, it's the network of people around the world that support the work that we do and other conservation organizations that actually make it possible for us to even start, for us to be able to buy fuel, to pay salaries for local people, to do wildlife monitoring and everything really. So, you know, we're very thankful for our international network of supporters, and we would love people to join us really in the movement to save cheetahs in Africa. And we have a website. It's Cheetah Conservation Botswana.org, and you can find out more information about us there. And we have a e-newsletter that goes out quarterly where we send everyone emails on our news. We put news up on the website. We have a Facebook page that you can follow where we update that regularly. And yeah, we hope that you'll join us. Perhaps you'll become supporters of the organization. Perhaps you've got fabulous skills. Maybe you're an accountant. Maybe you're a marketing specialist. Maybe you are an artist and you want to draw cheetahs for us. There's, you know, conservation needs a whole community of people around the world and all of the different variety of skills and everything. So if you have an idea of how you think you can help, please get in touch with us. we need all different kinds of skills to put towards conservation. Please spread the word about cheetahs and their challenges, and encourage people to get involved, not only with cheetahs, but all the endangered species on this planet. It's all of our responsibility to ensure that they continue. And I think we're at a point in the world where, you know, we can still change things around. There's still time, but time is running out. So, you know, cheetahs are racing for survival, and let's help them, let's support them to win that race.
Yes, thank you.
Rebecca, I so greatly respect what you are doing to protect and preserve these animals in a way that also makes them relevant to human beings who are on the landscape. You're not ignoring their worlds and their challenges, but trying to figure out how we can coexist together. I think that that's a very powerful and important way to move forward with conservation efforts. Please say your website again one more time.
It's cheetahconservationbotswana.org.
All right. Marcia, if people wanted to follow your work with Conservation Radio, how can they find you and subscribe to your podcast?
Sure. They can find me at beprovided.com, and that will have a link to iTunes where my podcast can be found. I'm doing a lot of Facebook Live events where I just interviewed Rebecca and Jane, and we did a live show a couple weeks ago. And that is on Facebook, and it's beprovided/live. And you'll be able to find some of those videos there as well. And yeah, so thank you. And a couple people asked questions in the chat. I don't know. Do you want to take any questions about?
I don't think we, unfortunately, I don't think we have
time. Okay.
For that now.
Okay.
I just sort of in closing this, again, great respect to Rebecca, what you and your organization are doing. Marcia, thank you so much for your work spotlighting conservation projects around the world. And I know that people often, as they are able at the end of these workshops, often donate to my website to support me and my work. If you're considering doing that today, I would like to encourage you this time, instead of donating your money to me, donating your something to Cheetah Conservation Botswana to help them with their work. The stuff that they are doing doesn't happen without funding, and as a nonprofit organization, those sorts of donations, no matter how small, really does make a difference, because you get those coming in from lots of different places. It makes a real difference. I know that those have made a huge difference to me and my family, and they'll make a difference to cheetahs as well. So you can become a part of Team Cheetah. That's right. Team Cheetah. There we go. And thank you, folks, all so much